Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Coming up on today's show, we're going to look at the latest Browns news and rumors as NFL free agency is well underway. And one of the biggest stories surrounding NFL free agency, for at least the Browns side of things, is their interest in Deshaun Watson, which, Captain Obvious here, you can connect the dots, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, could spell doom for Baker Mayfield. So is Baker's time in Cleveland done? So the Browns have been quite active in their pursuit of Deshaun Watson. We graduated from just Twitter smoke to Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski flew down to Houston today on Tuesday to speak and meet with Deshaun Watson and his camp to see if the two sides would be interested in a marriage. Now, the Texans are not interested in Baker Mayfield. So those are the reports that came out, and if a trade were to happen for Watson, it would not end up sending Mayfield to Houston, which makes things a little bit complicated because now we got to find another team to take on Baker Mayfield in this hypothetical trade who would want to inherit his $18 million salary on the final year of his contract. Mary Kay thinks the Browns and Baker may be splitting up no matter what. Here's what she said in an interesting article she put out saying, but the visit with Watson seems like a deal breaker, and Mayfield and the Browns could be headed for a divorce regardless if Watson lands here or not. I think the question you got to ask yourself is, when does flirting become cheating? Hopefully you haven't had this conversation with your girl before, but it's a conversation, if you watch enough Cheaters at 2 a.m., you'll find that out. And so I think the Browns have gone past talking to Deshaun Watson. Now they're openly flirting with the guy. And if I'm Baker, the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, I'm looking around like, this is cheating, right? I know you haven't gotten in bed with him yet, but it sure seems like you've done everything you can up to that point. Now, I want to ask this question because I think it's a pretty tough one to answer. It wasn't too long ago. Maybe now it is. Will Mayfield be the starting quarterback in Week 1 for the Browns? Type Y for yes or N for no. Curious what you think here because a couple weeks ago I would have said yes. The only way they're not having Baker Mayfield under center is if they get Wilson, Rodgers, or Watson. Well, Wilson went to Denver, Rodgers stayed put, and the Browns were never really in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. Here we are. If a trade were to happen, I think it would look something like this. I challenged a longtime viewer and subscriber, Dion Owens, to come up with a hypothetical trade, and it was way too extensive to fit on the screen. So here's how I kind of dumbed it down. The Browns get Deshaun Watson, and they get a third-round pick for the Colts because they send Baker Mayfield to the Colts. And I don't know, maybe you can get a second for Baker, but I just went for a third. Maybe it is a second. I'm not sure. And the Texans, they get all the picks. I am sorry if you are someone that doesn't like the idea of mortgaging the future on one player, but the Texans have been pretty open book about it. They want 3 firsts. They want a couple seconds. They want you to restock their vending machines and maybe a player or two, but they are very invested on getting picks over players. And the Colts, they get Baker Mayfield. They moved on from Carson Wentz. They've had a revolving door at the QB spot for the last half decade, and Baker Mayfield's the next man in line in this hypothetical mega 3-team blockbuster NFL trade. I really hope, though, that Baker has been hiking in the Andes Mountains and has been out of cell service and deleted his Twitter and hasn't taken any calls because we all know Baker can be a bit sensitive, right? I think that's okay to say, and he's a bit passionate, emotional, and that works sometimes in your favor. I love seeing him out there wanting to win more than anyone else on the field, it feels like. But when stuff like this happens, he's not going to brush it off, right? He's going to take this hard, honestly. So, Baker, if you're watching this, one, I hope you're not watching it, kind of, because that means you have cell reception, you have access to the internet, and you've heard about the trade rumors, and now you're probably upset about them. But if you are, and you end up being the Browns quarterback after all this is over, I hope you have a phenomenal season because I want the best for you. And if that's in Cleveland, then of course I want the best for you, right? Who would be rooting against someone on the Browns? I want you to play the absolute best you can. Now, if you had to pick one, who would you have? I know that if who's a better quarterback is easy, but if you had to pick a quarterback for the Browns, if you want Deshaun Watson, like the video. I want kind of a battle here. And if you want Baker Mayfield, type his jersey number 6. Let's see if we can get a battle of the likes versus the number 6. You don't just dislike the video because that tells YouTube this video sucks, and that's going to hurt my feelings. But like the video if you want Watson, or type 6 if you want Baker Mayfield. And while you're doing that, hit that big red button and subscribe because if a trade does happen for Deshaun Watson, We're probably going to go live on this YouTube channel, and we're going to have so much content that you will not be able to consume it enough. But at the end of the day, as sports fans, anytime our team makes any kind of move, we want to numb that shit up, right? Want to numb, eat it up. So subscribe, turn those noties on, so if a trade does happen, you are covered. Deshaun Watson is not out of the woods in terms of the legal process. And this has been a tough subject to talk about on the show, to be frankly honest with you guys, because I'm not trying to ignore the 22 pending civil cases against him. That is a very serious thing, and honestly a very serious matter too. It really speaks to, one, just his character as a whole, but I'm also not going to stand up here and act like the NFL doesn't have a history of hypocrisy. We've seen a lot of players break the law, and maybe not to the extent of 22 cases against them, sure, but we have seen players break the law and get second chances. So for me to stand here and say I'm out on Deshaun Watson because of that, I'm going to have some old takes exposed, because at the end of the day, a lot of our favorite players, I'm not saying they were all like this, but Kareem Hunt, right? We don't think about that so much anymore, but he had his issues before. So I like to believe the best in people and second chances and not cancel culture. But if you're out on Deshaun Watson for that legal process, sure, it's a very difficult choice. I get that. And I have no qualms with that. I'm not going to stand here and reply in the comments and go, you're wrong for not wanting Deshaun Watson. No, that's a tough thing to swallow. 22 cases against him, that's a lot. And if a team doesn't want to take on someone because of that, no issues for it. Let's move on to the next segment of today's show. Von Miller, could he be coming to Denver? Coming from Denver to Cleveland. It's going to be weird to say Von Miller not at the Broncos, but with the Rams, I guess. So Von Miller, Aaron Wilson from Pro Football Network tweeting this out. Von Miller market is starting to crystallize, and Dallas Cowboys, Cleveland Browns, and Los Angeles Rams are all in play for veteran pass rusher, 8-time Pro Bowl selection, future Hall of Famer per league sources. So let's look at Von Miller did this past season. Half with the Broncos, half with the Rams. Went on to win a Super Bowl. Nearly 10 sacks. Had a kind of a slow start in his transition to LA, but ramped things up in the postseason. And he was, Von Miller. I don't know if he was vintage Von Miller, but if Von Miller, or poor Von Miller, right, is nearly 10 sacks, I've got no issue with that. So not a problem in my book with that. But before we move on here to the next story, I just want to get you guys involved one last time. You want to sign Von Miller? Sign or pass? Let me know in the comment section what you want to do. And now let me tell you about the awesome deal we have going on at BetUS. Head on over to chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code Browns125. You get a 125% deposit bonus, and then you can spend that money on March Madness. Can't bet on the Brownies yet, but we can put some dough and some cheddar down. Here are the 5 favorites right now. I'm going to be pulling for my alma mater, the Tennessee Volunteers, but you can be pulling for your school, of course, and let me know who that is. Or maybe you want to just take the chalk, go with Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga's got a real chance to win it. For March Madness, I like to view it in terms of storylines. It felt right when Virginia won the year after losing to a 16 seed. Gonzaga, the best team last year, gets their asses kicked by Baylor in the Natty. How about a revenge tour? I'm kind of for it. Let's move on to the news section of today's show. JC Tretter, this one sucked, right? We kind of saw it coming, but I was hoping it wouldn't happen. But the Browns released him on Tuesday morning, and the move saved Cleveland north of $8 million. And Tretter, who was entering the final year of his contract, he wasn't a dinosaur, but he had been with the Browns for, 5 seasons now. And then you look at what he did, was with Green Bay before that. So Tretter is on the move, and whatever team picks him up, they're going to get a great player. And here's someone that could be replacing JC Tretter, most likely Nick Harris, right? The backup center for the Cleveland Browns, now expected to take over for Tretter. He was drafted by Cleveland in the 5th round of 2020 out of Washington. He's played in 23 games in his 2 seasons so far, making 2 starts. He spotted Tretter last season when he missed a game for an injury, so Nick Harris expected to be the new center in town. But let's send JC Tretter off on the right way. I posted a community post earlier today saying, hey, comment his jersey number 64, and I'm always kind of blown away of the support the Dog Pound shows their guys. So one last time, let's do him right. Let's send off a bunch of 64s in the comment section to thank him for all the big holes, no pun intended, that he opened up for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I think this move signaled that the Browns can only invest so much up front. You got Jedrick Wills, a first-round pick. You locked up Joel Bitonio. And then you extended Wyatt Teller. and you have Jack Conklin, who's not cheap. That's 4 names right there. Right? You can only spend so much. Nick Harris, much cheaper, and they probably were impressed with him in practice and didn't feel like it'd be much of a drop-off. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Matthew Petey, keeping you guys up to date with the latest Browns news and rumors throughout all of free agency. So follow me on Twitter. And hey, if you DM me that you came from today's show, I'll give you a follow back as well. But until next time, go Browns.